Do you know that the day that Columbine happened, the United States dropped more bombs on Kosovo than any other time during that war?
I do know that, and I think that that's really ironic, you know, that nobody said, well, maybe the president had an influence on this violent behavior. No, because that's not the way the media wants to take it and spin and turn it into fear, because then you're watching television, you're watching the news, you're being pumped full of fear. There's floods, there's AIDS, there's murder. Cut to commercial. Buy the Acura, buy the Colgate. If you have bad breath, they're not going to talk to you. If you got pimples, the girl's not going to fuck you. And it's just it's a campaign of fear and consumption. And that's what I think that it's all based on, is the whole idea that keep everyone afraid and they'll consume.
After Columbine, it seemed that the entire focus on why the shootings occurred was because the killers listened to Marilyn Manson. If you were to talk directly to the kids at Columbine or the people in that community, what would you say to them if they were here right now?
I wouldn't say a single word to them. I would listen to what they have to say, and that's what no one did.
I don't understand why you pick Catholicism, why you go with the cross, with God, with the Pope. To me, she has lost her religion because of listening to him as well as other musicians. She's not a Catholic anymore. She has no religion anymore, and that's what's bothering me.
Well, you know, it could be because it was your religion and maybe it wasn't supposed to be hers.
Okay.
And that most children don't understand what you're doing and why you're using the F word and why you're acting bizarre. And this can be very, very troubling to children who don't have direction, who don't have responsible parents.
Anything can be misinterpreted. People can look at Christ on a cross and think, this is an image of murder, this is violent, this has sexual imagery in it. And I think it's my job as an artist to be out there pushing people's buttons and making them question everything. And I respect you for challenging me, and that's why I came on the show. You gotta be open-minded. But let me say something now. I've particularly on this record, with the imagery that I use, I tried to look at the things that I was taught growing up about Christianity in a different way. You know, I looked at the image of Christ on the cross and the story of him as someone who was a revolutionary with dangerous ideas, and I started saying to myself, oh, I can relate to this story now. I'm not going to dismiss it, but I'm going to interpret it in a different way. So everybody should, you have to be open-minded. I'm sure when you were young, you didn't want to listen to what your parents were trying to tell you to believe in. She's going to find her own. Maybe someday she'll become a nun. You don't know. The two byproducts of that whole tragedy were violence and entertainment and gun control, and how perfect that was the two things that we were going to talk about with the upcoming election. And also then we forgot about Monica Lewinsky, and we forgot about the president was shooting bombs overseas, yet I'm a bad guy because I sing some rock and roll songs. And who's a bigger influence, the president or Marilyn Manson? I'd like to think me, but I'm going to go with the president.
What's your message? What are you trying to get across in the lyrics to these songs?
It's always about being yourself and not being ashamed of being different or thinking different. I try and take everyone's ideals, common morals, flip them around, make people look at them differently, question them, so that you're not always taking things for granted.
For example, you do rip pages out of the Bible in your concert. You do wipe your ass with the American flag. Mm-hmm. Some of these things, you have to admit, are controversial.
Absolutely.
I mean,
they're designed to make people think, but the point with the Bible or a flag is to say it's only as valid as you make it in your heart. A piece of paper,
perception, isn't it, Marilyn?
A piece of paper or a piece of cloth doesn't mean anything. It's what you believe. And I want people to think about what they believe. I want them to consider if everything they've been taught, if that's what they want to believe or that's what they've been told that they have to believe.
You're a pretty well-spoken guy, yet in your records you use a lot of F-word, a lot of swearing and this and that. Again, is it necessary?
Sometimes. I think sometimes when you're making a point, I don't think that my lyrics are overlaced with profanity, because I myself don't speak using a lot of profanity in normal conversation. But I think when you're making something aggressive and you need to get a point across, if you're angry, sometimes profanity is necessary. It's better to use a curse word than to hurt somebody else, I find. Well, I think if parents spent more time trying to censor rock music and art and movies and things like that, and they spent the time teaching their kids to appreciate and understand those things and to know what's right and what's wrong. I think that's more time spent, more value.
You can take some of your lyrics as, you know, you'll understand when I'm dead. I mean, disturbed kids could take the lyrics and say, you know, when I'm dead, everybody's going to know me.
Well, I think that's a very valid point, and I think that that's a reflection of not necessarily this program, but of television in general. If you die and enough people are watching, then you become a martyr, you become a hero, you become well known. So when you have things like Columbine and you have these kids that are angry and they have something to say and no one's listening, the media sends a message that if you do something loud enough and it gets our attention, then you will be famous for it. Those kids ended up on the cover of Time magazine. The media gave them exactly what they wanted. And that's why I never did any interviews when that happened, when I was getting blamed for it, because I felt that I would be contributing to what I found to be reprehensible.
So you don't believe that your songs reflect any kind of suicide wish or anything like that?
No, I feel that my songs talk about getting through feelings like that.